Hey guys, today we're gonna make this dub chord sound, so it's gonna sound like this. I'm gonna put a download link for you guys in the description with some presets for Serum that you can download for free. So you just press the link in the description. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is to load up an instance of Serum, and this sounds like this. Basic stuff. Then we're gonna use this simple MIDI pattern. You can just pause the video, copy the MIDI, and use it for the tutorial. So the first thing we're gonna do is to mess around with oscillator A. Choose the acid preset. We're gonna put the octave to -1. We're gonna put the unison to 3. Put the detune a little bit down. The phasing to around 75. Gonna put the level all the way up. Then for oscillator B, we're gonna choose the oscillator called basic MG. We're gonna put the semitone up 7, so we get this kind of chord sound, and put the unison to 4, so it's gonna sound like this. I'm gonna put the detune a little bit back. The level is fine, and phasing to around 220-ish. So the next thing we're gonna do is to enable the sub oscillator, and we're gonna use this round react. We're gonna put the octave to around -1, and the level is just about fine. It's just more to like add some more low mid. Next thing is gonna add some noise. We're gonna add this one called, I think it's called, ARP circuit, and the level is fine, around 25, 26-ish. It's gonna sound like this. This is more to add some extra noise on top of it. The next thing it's going to add is a filter, and I like to use the MG Low 18. And what we should remember to do is to actually use the filter for all our sound sources. So oscillator A and B, the noise oscillator, and the sub oscillator. And it's going to sound like this. And we're going to put the filter to around like 75. I'm going to put up the resonance to around 50%. Yeah, so to get this more like resonated sound. The drive is around 20%. The fat knob is around 45. Just to add some like more like beefiness to the sound. Then we're gonna mess around with the envelopes. So envelope 1 is gonna be a little bit more like plucky. Set the decay to around like 500, sustain all the way down, release to around like 50 or so. And then we're gonna like use envelope 2. This is for modulating the filter. Put the sustain down, decay to around like 500, release is fine around like 30. Then we're gonna assign it to the cutoff. Yeah, and just like mess around with like the amount that you assign it to until you think it sounds good. I think this is fine. So the next thing is we're gonna like mess around with the LFO as well. And I like to turn off the syncing, so it gets more like organic and it's not like hitting every time on every note. So what I'm gonna do is assign this to the cutoff. Just a tiny amount, I think like 23 or so around. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna like modulate the filter cutoff. And because we didn't set it to like a syncing mode, then it's gonna like be different almost each time that it hits the note. Let's move on. The next thing, which is the most important thing in Dub Techno and Dub Chord sounds, is the effects section. So let's jump right into it. So the first thing I'm gonna add is like a phaser. Again, at a slow rate, not turning on the syncing. Depth to around 30%, mess around like with the frequency around 11K, and then feed around here, and then I'm gonna put down the mix knob to around 30. So if you listen to the sound, it's a really like subtle change, but it adds up in the total picture. So the next thing is we're gonna use a filter again, and the filter is mainly just to control the highs. So I'm gonna use the MG Low 12, sorry, and set it to around like, so we have like the 7 decay area and put up the resonance a bit. Also the drive just a little bit and the fatten up a little bit. So it sounds like this. Yeah, you can mess around with like the frequency. Yes. Just the subtle changes, but it's all about the subtle changes that adds up to the sound. So the next thing, the delay. And again, turn off the BPM so it's not synced. And now you just have to play around with what sounds nice. So turn on the ping pong delay and then just play the sound. And this is all about your own tasting to it. I really like the settings around here. And it kind of sounds to me like an echo or some. So I think it's fine. Let's just move on. So the next thing is we're going to add some distortion and then move it to just after the delay. And this is just to add some more like harmonics to it and just really, really subtle changes. I think this is fine. So, and then we're going to add the reverb. And the reverb is set to Hall. Put up the reverb size. And then set the decay to around like 6 seconds. Remove some of the low cut. So removing some of the lower frequencies because this is not a bass sound. So it's not going to interfere that much. And then the high cut to around like here. And then put up the mix knob. So what this is really sounding to me is really like Dub Techno. Because of the reverb and the delay, how they are like playing together. So adding these big sounds and almost like playing in like a really, really big room and the reverb and reflections. So, and the next thing I'm gonna add is like a compressor, just to glue stuff a little bit together and also to like to emphasize and pull forth the delay and the reverb. And this is basically the default settings. I'm not gonna mess around with it that much. And then the last effect is the EQ. What I'm gonna do here is to put up like a low pass. And as you can hear, it's just to remove some of the low end. And we can also use this as a macro effect for like automating it later on. And then I'm gonna like increase the high pass shelf just to increase like the higher frequencies of the sound. So this is actually the sound. Pretty awesome. So what you can do now is adding these macro effects. So what we can do as the first knob is to play around with like the envelope decay and the envelope sustain, both for the envelope 1 and envelope 2. Now I did it in the wrong order, but it's okay. You can do it like this and do it like this. So I'm not gonna use it like the full amount, and then you can listen to the sound here. You can also like add it to the release as well if you want to. Maybe also for the envelope 2 as well. So you can really open up the sound, and it's great for like building towards like a drop or like in a breakdown section or so. And then we can like the next macro effect we can use is actually to mesh around with the reverb and the delay as well. And if you listen to it here, you can make this kind of like wash effect. And I think it's really brilliant for when you're gonna do like these build-ups towards like a drop. So you really like push it. Yeah, and then you have it. And then the last one, you can actually, as I mentioned before, mess around with the EQ. So I'm just gonna pull down the amount a little bit. So what this does is actually remove some of the lower frequencies. So it kind of makes the sound a little bit more thin. Like so. And if you combine it with like the other macro effects, you can really mess around with the sound over time. So yeah, this is actually what I'm doing in Serum for like processing. So what you can do for some extra treating of your sound is to pull up the imager from ozone, isotope, sorry. And this is mainly just for controlling the stereo information in the sound, because we added a lot of like delay, reverb, a lot of like stereo effects in the phaser as well. So what I'm actually doing is removing the stereo information in the lower range of the frequency spectrum, sorry. So around like, this is actually a really brutal cut, so around like 300 hertz, it's actually being made totally mono, almost mono. And then I'm like giving it some more like stereo information in the top range, just to like compensate for what we removed in the bottom, because then it's gonna sound a little bit more tight. And if you are using like mono, the sound is not completely gone. Like you can hear the reverb is really like suffering, but yeah, you can tweak it a little bit more further if you want to, but now I think it sounds fine for the tutorial. So what you can do is actually listen to what it sounds in like a context. Oh, sorry. Also like add a sidechain again for some pumping. This is great for when you have like a, you know, like for the kick and stuff and the bass, and so everything is not clashing that much. And you can use whatever preset, or like, sorry, like whatever VST that you want. I'm using like the Cable Guys volume shaper. You can use the LFO tool and so on. So this is like a basic loop that I made. Like messing around with the knobs. So yeah, there are like really a lot of possibilities for this sound, like for evolving it, like with the macros and stuff. So that was the tutorial. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm gonna upload a lot of more of these tutorial videos in the future. It's also a great way for me to like developing my skills and getting even better at producing. So I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.